Welcome back to the Wingspan Podcast, episode 42. I'm Doug Bearak, joined by my co-host Chris Milholen, Nets Daily.
What's going on, guys? We just want to take some time to catch up on our lives, the Nets, some NBA, and just briefly talk about the Super Bowl we saw on Sunday night. Yeah. So I guess, well, Doug, I guess we'll just lead it off as mostly just what have you been up to since our latest episode?
Spotlight. So I started a new job. I'm not going to go too much into it, but basically working from home, thankfully. It looks like that's going to be the whole theme even into next year as well. You know, it's great to be working again. I didn't publicly mention, but I was unemployed for like 6 months. It was crazy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the free time to binge, to watch shows and TV shows I've never seen before. Movies, TV shows like crazy. Cooked more, you know. There were some benefits. I did get a little too used to my couch, which was probably not the best thing when it came to posture when sitting back in a chair now. Like it's crazy, but it's nice to be employed again. Everything's going well. I love my coworkers. I feel completely like zen. I'm not even just saying that because they might watch this. They probably won't. I'm not like telling people to watch the podcast like that. It's not how I do it. I like things to be more natural, but yeah, everything's chill. I'm like, even outside of work, I'm still working. It's like, that's how invested I am and interested in what I'm doing. But those of you who want to know more, maybe I'll tell you in a DM or something like that. But like, right now we're just winging it. So like,
yes, sir.
We're keeping it to what's on the pod and that kind of stuff. So what about you, Chris?
Well, first, it's great to hear that you're employed. Obviously, you know, we've had our talks past 6 months. You know, I'm one of those guys that you talked about and everything. So good for you. Happy you're happy with your new position. But well, yeah, with me, you know, just doing what I do. You know, cover the Nets for Nets Daily. So attend all the Zooms throughout the week, whether it's practice, you know, pregame, postgame, players, all that. So covering the Nets. Been playing a little bit on the book, like we talked a little bit off air. You know, I was coming up with some ideas for a future date. I'm not going to give anything out yet. There's nothing really to talk about on that aspect. And outside of that, you know, just enjoying some family time, you know, with everything kind of just quarantine, lockdown. I don't have COVID or anything, but, you know, with kind of just being safe.
Been there, done that mentality.
Yeah, you know, like kind of just enjoying myself, enjoying some family. I'm at the grandparents' house right now. So just enjoying some time, just enjoying the family. So can't complain. Life's good.
Yeah, no, it's so great to hear, man. And like vaccine rollout and all that stuff. I'm like now because of my job, I'm eligible, but can't find a time slot. And the craziest thing I've been hearing is a lot of the sites have available time slots, but the systems aren't crossing the way they should. So unfortunately, I'm sure tons of doses are being wasted, and it's unfortunate, but you know, all we can do is wait. But let's talk about some Brooklyn Nets. You mentioned it a little bit. How does it feel to be covering games at a higher capacity right now alongside Matt Brooks?
Well, Matt Brooks is amazing, man. So, like, before the season, once it kind of got set in stone that me and Brooks were going to be the tag team duo to kind of cover this whole crazy season, which is the most anticipated season. That's history, you know, especially with now 3 stars. Before it was 2, now you got 3. It's been great overall, you know. So me and him have done great work. We always talk every single day on ways we could collaborate in different ways outside of recaps. For the ones that do watch the recaps, you know, from previous years to now, what me and Brooks have done, we've added a lot more elements to it. So Brooks has his own little film room section in the recap where he grabs film from the actual game that the recap is written about, breaks it down, gives you a whole different perspective on that. He's been killing it on that aspect. He's been amazing. And then on top of that, you know, just basic end notes. So latest Nets news, whatever it was important that Steve Nash said, we slap in there. And we also give our listeners, our readers in that case, a view of like what's next or what the Nets are gonna do, whether it's a game or what's gonna go on. It's mostly just like how me and Brooks kind of describe it. We want it to be like kind of a newsletter outside of just the game coverage. So we've been doing a lot of that. And obviously, Brooks has other film little studies that he does outside as well that he's been fantastic on, killing it. And then I just cover the basic news, any type of other stuff and everything. So overall, it's been very good. Very,
Yeah.
very.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy for you. I mean, like you're filling the roles of Pooch. Pooch was just one
Yeah,
guy. You guys are two. So like that's some
yeah.
big shoes to fill, my man.
It's big shoes, but it's a luxury of having another guy with you. So heading into this year, filling those shoes of Pooch, it's one of those things that when you're filling those shoes, you have to really work hard for it. So but me and Brooks have been killing it. We've split it up so well. Even just with opposing teams and their zooms and stuff as well, we split it up. The biggest thing is too with me and Brooks is we want each other to give most of each other equal opportunity. We want all of us to kind of just progress and develop in the same ways. Because me and Brooks and our stages in our careers, right? We're building. We're not like one of those guys that are a household name in the media business. We're very well known in the Nets community, but on top of that, overall, one thing we just want to do is we just want to keep building, keep developing personally, communicatively, just all in all aspects. I think me and him are doing a great job. What is this, 20, early 20s in, early 20 games
It
in?
is so tough because this whole
I
thing
can't
is.
remember the top numbers with everything, but I think, what are they? 20, game 23, game 24,
We're
something
we're
like
we're,
that.
we're well into the season.
We're past the quarter
We're,
mark.
we're
We're
getting to
approaching
the point where we can more accurately give our opinions on what's
Mhm.
really going down.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, what have you liked and disliked thus far for the Nets, particular?
I guess you could just say the big picture of it is, I think, well, one thing I want to put out there with a lot of people, because obviously, I'm an avid user of Twitter and I read the timelines. And one thing that I feel like a lot of people aren't appreciating is having three superstars on this Nets team. Because I feel like a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, a lot of people are very quick to click that panic button after one loss. And
Yeah,
um,
I,
I see that going on a lot.
I think we're a few weeks away from me to get into that mindset.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm just living in the moment after every loss or hiccup.
Because the thing with the Nets is right. The problems that they're dealing with right now. Obviously, it's the five defensively. Of course, it's just those problems. The Nets know where their holes are, and they have done it
So does the
progressively.
rest of the league.
So does the rest of the league. Trust me, we know that, especially the Nets killers. How many of them are centers? So um, just what like I get back to that superstar point, right? I feel like a lot of people don't really realize franchises dream of having one of these players on their team like decades. Not There's some teams that haven't had one player of KD, Kyrie, or Harden's caliber for 10 plus years, and the Nets have three of them. And obviously, I'm not going to get into the whole rebuilding, but obviously the Nets did it very organically. And like the prophet Louis Scola said, once they start winning, they're going to get whoever they want. And that's how it's planning out. But overall, what I liked from this team the most, I'd say, is James Harden's sacrifice so far, right? I think with James Harden, what he's done facilitating the ball, assisting, he's leading the league in assists. He's showing that he's a multi-dimensional player, not can only just kind of flip that switch of scoring. And obviously, as at the time of this recording, he hasn't gone off and gone for a huge scoring game where it's 40 points, whatever the case is. It's more of he's balancing the two, which I like too, because like he said a couple days ago, he wants to give all of his role players confidence for the big picture in the postseason. And that's another thing that's worth noting too is a lot of these Nets players, from KD to Harden, Kyrie, and else, just look at the timeline, right? Kyrie said in the early half of the season that we're using this regular season so we could win 16 playoff games. Harden the other day, I want all of our teammates to be comfortable and confident because any player could change a playoff series. And then you got KD talking about the big three as well and adding kind of that mixture of things. And I feel like a lot of people aren't really embracing that to the fullest of the Nets are experimenting with this regular season, using it as a building block to get to that point rather than, okay, let's just put the big picture on the product. What most fans are used to, everyone's used to NBA teams performing at their fullest during the regular season, showing who they really are. But during these all unusual times of every sort, um, there was no very limited training camp. The players had I have like you guys probably heard for today, which is the 8th month. Shumpert even talked about it. Just the struggles and the tough process it is for players to even find gyms. Not all the NBA players own gyms in their house or in workout equipment and stuff. So that plays a big factor into it. So that's what I like the most. Well, and then what about you, Doug? What have you liked the most?
So if we're sticking with the positive right now, I mean, I'm just glad to see basketball,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
thankfully we personally haven't seen as many suspended games yet. I mean, there were times where I still have the mindset of shut it down or put it on pause,
Those all the
as
time.
we talked about in the last episode. With the Olympics, trying to get everything done before then.
Mhm.
But yeah, I appreciate the big three. I'm still uh, I'm gonna talk about some sour grapes, like Jared Allen, like finding out we were one first rounder away from keeping him.
Mhm.
Like, damn, that
It
hurt
hurts. It hurts. It
because
hurts
we
like
have yet to fill that void in any
especially the
capacity.
big.
And even though our best lineup doesn't have a center in it, like Jeff Green is pretty much the five, switching off with KD, like still. We haven't seen scary hours, as we're calling it, or as, sorry, James Harden and company have been calling it, in action long enough, especially against teams that are big. The biggest threats, we don't match up well to like match. Not, I'm not saying like we can outplay them skill wise, regardless of size. That's another story. But I gotta say that the Yes broadcast has done a phenomenal job. The Yes Rail and all that. I think they've done the best balancing fake fan noises, the in-game experience with the broadcasting, where you can like truly feel like you're there in a way where it doesn't distract. Like when we were listening to Ian on TNT, his mic was so muffled. People were saying like he's on the top of a mountain just telling like what's going on. I mean, like this is Ian Eagle. I didn't even think you could hurt his like composure, but like they did. Like it was, he just sounded so weird, and I don't know. But I mean, they've done a great job. I mean, they don't have their team in person. I mean, I also thought it's a very cool concept that they've continued from the bubble, where they're calling games from Barclays Center regardless if the team is there. I thought that was very interesting instead of being at their studio. I kind of like it because it's really cool to see the arena, even though it's like a lot of people yearning to be there. It's great that media access isn't too bad for people who traditionally cover the teams. I do like the Zoom factor a little bit more than an overcrowded room. I think there is some organization, even though it may limit some people asking questions. I mean, it's even been nice hearing Matt Brooks get call some cues. I always give him a shout out because I love it. Giving people just dues. And then we also get like the best memes from those Zooms. Like I think that's a little underrated
Yeah.
thing is the amount
Yeah.
of
The
memes,
fans have fun with
memes
those.
and gifs that have been coming out. Like Bob Windstrom, great. The most awkward, heartfelt moment between him and James Harden was just like quite the way to introduce James Harden to the Nets, and I guess for a lot of people, Windstrom to like the fan base. No one knew who the mysterious net income is, and slowly, year by year, he's less invisible. So I really love that, even though he's memed way too much because of it, and he relishes it. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, Bob's the man. That's all I gotta say. He's the man.
And I'll transition with this. Like, obviously, I mentioned the Jared Allen thing. The other thing has been, we'll talk about a little bit later, is the contact tracing because Katie's been out twice for, unfortunately, a very extended period of time, and it's very confusing. Some other players, dislike wise, haven't been playing up to their expectations. I mean, thankfully, Shamit has been getting into his groove, which is nice. Hopefully, it's not, you know, a fluke. Like I do think this is the kind of player we'll see offensively. Defensively, I don't really know his game well, but offensively, I do hope that he'll be able to create on his own and be always ready for that catch and shoot because the opportunity is always there. Oh, I also got to say for liking Joe Harris, like, damn, Joey is locked in headband or no headband. He is locked in. I'm really happy for him. I hope he gets a little bit more touches. And then dislike, I do appreciate what Harden says about getting people more involved, but I do want to see him a little more aggressive. And I am a little surprised, not that I want him to be flopping, which he hasn't been doing as much as I would have expected, is like drawing fouls. I'm really disappointed the amount of times where I'm surprised he hasn't got a call. And I mean that generally. Like I hate flopping, and yet where's that foul call, ref? These last two games were
Yeah,
horrific when it came to fouls. And I'm not saying they were make or break our games, although the missed offensive interference, two techs, pretty much because of it. So basically 4 points just handed away. It was just disgusting. So I think the way the refs have been calling the game is actually different this season. I think they've been a little more physical. I don't know if they've like decided to benefit the defensive player more than the offensive player. I don't really know. I just hope that they have a better onboarding process for each year and constantly check in throughout. Because I feel like some of these refs just have like their own way of doing it, and NBA just goes with it. And like one of the games, I forget which one, it sucked for both teams. I'm not just talking about the Nets. There's some teams that are both like, it may have been 76ers where the thing that they were only consistent on, which was really impressive, was moving screens. But trying to think what else has been disliked. I mean, thankfully obviously Dinwiddie injury, for sure, even though it was a while ago, and Claxton not being back yet. But for the most part, yeah, there are some role players who, unfortunately, I don't think are going to cut it. And what's even more unfortunate about it, it's like a third of our team that I think is very easily replaceable, and we don't know what that will look like because a lot of them can get guaranteed in the next few weeks, and we're still like a week or two after that date of the trade deadline and buyouts and all that kind of stuff. So, anyone who calls this Celtics Big Three trade, just stop. Like, these guys are in their prime, and even if the other guys were in their prime, I don't think you can truly compare it skill wise. Maybe big ticket to an extent, but I don't know. Well, what have you disliked about the season thus far?
Well, the thing with the disliking is I think it's just too early to tell because like I mentioned before, right, with the low preparation heading into the season. Like I'm not like to be honest with you, I'm not too surprised about really anything that to a big extent. Steve Nash is a rookie head coach. This is a whole different. It's a very new look team. When you got three superstars on a team with a bunch of role players, it's going to take a lot of pressure on those role players overall. And I think Joe Harris has really benefited from that. Like I know, I believe it was Bob wrote a great story for Nets Daily about how James Harden's really helping Joe Harris have this big career year that he's having, just with shooting and getting him touches, showing that he's more than just a shooter overall. Obviously, the Dinwiddie injury really derailed a lot. Because if you had Dinwiddie healthy in this lineup, I highly doubt you'd see a lot of the guys that are being signed or will be signed in the future being on this team, especially the guys that are signed to non-guaranteed deals. But like I said before, like the thing with the dislike word is I'm one of those guys that want to see the full big picture. Once the roster's finalized, see whoever is there, especially after the buyout market, whether Drummond does come or not, or if it's a McGee type player, or if it's just some random eight ball that just comes out of left field that Sean Mark signs, So it's gonna see what it takes to beat. I like looking at the big picture of it. It's gonna come down. I need to see who, like I said, just see how the roster kind of fills out, how everyone kind of really does everything. But when it comes to disliking,
I definitely feel that. Like I think there's more positives to build from, and right before my next question, which kind of leads into what you've been talking about, my biggest dislike has been the Nets Twitter GMs, not the coaches. The Nets Twitter coaches have been pretty spot on this season, and I'm speaking as a biased one. But Nets Twitter GMs, like the amount of people who say trade Joe Harris as like the main centerpiece for someone else, like no, you still need Joe. There is not going to be someone that we can afford that will make up for the production that you're looking for, which a lot of these people are like defensive minded. We're not going to get someone in the market.
One player that's available that could replace Joe Harris shooting the ball. There's not. Like unless you really want to just unload the whole tank and get
our bench would have no offense, no consistent offense if that's the position. So whatever defensive players you're trying to go for, it will only help the starting unit. It will not help the bench. So you can't trade Joe.
Yeah. And with the role players, like I said, I see it on Twitter as well. Just staying on the Twitter topic, a lot of these guys. Tyler Johnson, he did have a bad game the other day. I'm not too fond of Tyler right now. I think that a lot of it, you got to look at the other side of the picture. The kid's not playing. He's seeing limited minutes. It's hard for him to kind of just go out on the court, and produce at the level that everyone's used to seeing, or that Bubble Johnson type of player, But it's going to be interesting how they manage him. They got a lot of perimeter pieces that they can work with as well. Shamet, I'm glad to see him kind of getting his footing down, shooting the ball. I'm very high on Shamet. He's 23 years old. He's got experience with very good other teams in Philadelphia and Los Angeles, the Clippers. So I think that's very vital. I really liked Sean Marks getting that and him in the offseason. And just like I said, overall, like I just need to see how this roster pans out. And because I feel like you could say, hey, the defense has been bad. Hey, the rebounding has been bad, But the Nets don't fit that profile of a defensive team or a rebounding team,
So is it too early to press that panic button?
It's too early to press the panic button, guys. Like
I don't think
the
anyone
worst
realizes
is
that.
like the worst is like when the Nets go on like a 6 game winning streak, and you just look on Twitter and everyone's just freaking out, and they just lost that one game. It's like a 6 game winning streak. They lose one, and everyone starts hitting the panic button. It's like, guys, like don't worry about it. But like I said before, need to see the roster get finalized, then I can start making
No,
judgments.
I agree. I'll panic in the moment, just not for like the long run, especially like when you see things like the Joe Harris inbound, like that's not going to make or break our
Yeah,
season as a whole. I mean, if we somehow lose really good playoff positioning, sure, I'm going to go back to it, but as of now, I'm not ready to panic.
yeah.
And then we kind of mentioned scary hours as a whole. So like, do you think we've seen enough of them to truly give an opinion?
Um, Not yet. I don't think so. I think what we got to see is well, overall, the amount of games that they played together is still not enough. I think what it comes down to see the full big picture of the scary hours is really just a consistency path, And obviously, the Nets have been hurt with Durant going on the protocol like he is now, Kyrie Irving kind of getting banged up, balancing the injury history between Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving as well, and that's something that's going to be around the obstacles the whole time. But I think, like I said, with Scary Hours, I'm a big fan of it. I like the Harden move. I didn't like it at first. I'll admit that. I did not like it at first because I just
I
knew.
didn't like the timing of it. I was fine
I,
with him
I,
as a player, but I didn't like the
yeah,
timing.
it's not just the timing. I think it's just the with Jared Allen getting traded as well. Levert, two cornerstone players that the Nets really kind of grew and marketed. And on top of it, but the big picture is that it was a trade that needed to be made. Not that many players of James Harden's caliber, especially with the familiarity that the Nets personnel already had with this player.
And he probably would have been traded to a team in our conference.
Yeah, it would probably been the Sixers if the Sixers really kicked it off in the final 48 hours. I guess you could say in Sean Marks' words. But the thing is, like, I just got to. I need more time to see it. I like what I'm seeing out of it. I think each player is really kind of taking their own role. It's KD's team. I've always thought that way, and I will still think that way. I think that his scoring is going to be valuable. And he's got to have shots up and stuff. And same like you mentioned earlier with Harden, he's got to score more. 3 shots in a first half here, and 8 or 9 in the second is not going to compliment it. We want that consistency. And at the same time, the big thing with the big three is, and then you add Joe Harris on the floor and Jeff Green in the corners. That's so much gravity for opposing teams to really draw towards. There's a lot of guys who can score in the different areas of the floor. This team's going to be dangerous. But like right now, there's still even though it's a little over 10 games since Harden has joined right now.
Yeah.
Um,
and not many, and at least a third of them or a fourth of them, all three of them haven't been available.
Exactly.
So.
That's what I'm saying too. Like they haven't been all available in a lot of these games, so it's gonna. I need to see more history between the three of them, and just see how they mesh all together.
So is one ball too few?
What'd you say? One ball?
Is one ball too few for this team?
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Can they play off each other? Does everyone need that ball at the same time? Like, are they just holding on, can't pass out?
I'm honestly gonna take James Harden's words on this because I feel like they're all, especially with James Harden being 31. He had that long tenure in Houston where he proved himself. He really transformed the player he is, and he's ringless at the end of the day. And I feel like with these three superstars, with like Kyrie said, he's entering kind of his prime. He's 28. KD, he's won with Golden State. Now he's trying to prove his legacy, saying, "Hey, I could win without being on a super team." Really, you could call this a super team, but he wants to win in a team or a franchise that's never won before. Carve out that journey, put the Nets on the map, and all that stuff. So I think it just goes back to the point that they're all at this stage of the career where they all know what they want, and they all know what it takes to get what they want.
Yeah, I think the sacrifice is real at this point.
Exactly. The sacrifice is the whole word to sum that whole thing up.
And what have you thought about the 3 recent signings of Norvo Pell, Iman Shumpert, who's coming back to Brooklyn, and why am I blanking at the moment? This is really sad.
What, for you?
Noah Vonleh.
Vonleh, yeah.
I was like, it was just today. How did I already forget?
No worries. I really like Vonleh. That one I really did like. I'm surprised that didn't, because I was looking actually 2 nights ago at a couple of people, okay, who aren't on teams, start plugging, start doing the little like third grade, okay, let's connect this line, see where the familiarity is between the two. Um, I just like Von Lake because he brings a different element. It's something he could shoot. His defense, it's streaky at some times, but overall he's a rebounder. He gives the Nets a different type of edge, especially at the five. He could spread the floor a little more, have a little more different tools and stuff. Not to really dive into it too much because we haven't seen him on the court yet at the time of this recording, but and then overall, I really like Shumpert because Shumpert, I think the biggest thing about Shumpert signing that sticks out to me, number one, it's a perimeter defender that's valuable. That's perimeter defending is valuable for this team. And number two, I just think it's, like I said, it's the familiarity with the personnel, right? You got Mike D'Antoni. Yeah, he played with James Harden, won championship with Kyrie. And the big thing that a lot of people aren't really realizing, too, he spoke about it a little bit today, too, with Shumpert, is that he's so accustomed playing with a lot of superstars throughout his whole career. You look going back to New York, he was with Carmelo Anthony. Then in Cleveland, LeBron and Kyrie, right? And then Houston, James Harden and Chris Paul. There's all these different superstars he's fed off of. So he knows how to embrace that role of being a role player, what it takes living up and pressure-wise playing with superstars. So I'm excited to see him play, even though he's not going to be playing Tuesday night. But and then with Pelle, he's just one of those. He fills a hole, but doesn't completely fill the hole. He's one of those guys that he's going to come in, he's going to block shots, he's going to rebound. Obviously, it's his foul trouble speaks for itself. He literally fouled out.
I was thinking a little Mitchell Robinson light.
Yeah,
very light.
Exactly. He's a traditional big. He's obviously his game is very underdeveloped. You could tell the guy he didn't play college basketball before. He's very raw, but he fills some attributes that this Nets team really needs. And like I said before, February 24th is the non-guaranteed date. And it's gonna really, there's 5 players right now. Chioza, I'm not gonna name all of them, but there's 5 players that are all non-guarantees, and they could be waived for literally nothing at that day or by that time. So if he doesn't turn out, or the Nets do say, okay, they get Drummond in the buyout market, they have a good feeling that they're gonna get him, whatever the case is, or they really like Vonleh that much, I think Vonleh's play is gonna really impact who they're gonna release or who they're going to part ways from. I think that, and especially with Vonleh too, he's only 25 years old, same age that the Nets signed Joe Harris, out of Cleveland. So I'm not saying that Vonleh is going to become like the Nets' latest success story, but I think that it's going to be interesting to see. So I'd say Vonleh sticks out the most to me. What about you?
I think that's a very good point. Thinking about Vonleh, I think it also has to do with filling in for Reggie Perry, since Reggie Perry in the bubble, if I'm not mistaken. So he's filling in for that. It's probably also pushing to the idea that Claxton isn't going to be back until March based on recent reports. So that's probably another reason why him in particular, and because we don't necessarily know with Pell and how many minutes he'll truly get. So it might be a mix between those two guys as energy off the bench. Iman, he may not put it up in the box score, but energy in locker room type person, I think that's his biggest thing. And Pell, as we mentioned, is a very, very, very inexpensive version. I don't want to be mean, but dollar store version of Mr. Robinson. Very energetic, high flying blocker. But yeah, so what kind of changes do you expect around the deadline? Do you expect? I mean, obviously we're not expecting anything big. I think we're done with our blockbuster trades. But what kind of players are on your radar?
Well,
and do we trade Dinwiddie at this point, or at the end of the season, or not at all this season?
Well, first, this is all opinion based. I just want that out there. I know how people are, but I think that they will start to explore options with Dinwiddie. I do think that's the way they're going to go. Whether it's going to be trading him for a guy, whether it's going to be trading him for a first to kind of regroup that aspect, or are they going to trade for him for a guy on an expiring contract that could fill that void of making the Nets a championship contender, like this year, kind of finalizing that big piece? Or do they go with a long-term project player that, that's a high rise and could develop them from there? So I'll start that with Dinwiddie. I think overall they'll start making like they've already made phone calls, obviously. It's been reported. Everyone knows about it. But I think they'll really start to weigh him out and see what they can get in return. But like I said before, I think with the buyout market, I think Drummond's a very realistic possibility. I think that not only is he familiar with the personnel, with especially playing with Katie, Kyrie, the guys with Team USA, the list goes on there. And obviously, he's more traditional. He's starting to shoot a little. He's starting to expand his range every year, which is always good to see out of traditional bigs. And especially on the buyout, the thing with the buyout market that a lot of people aren't really taking the big picture of is that when you get bought out, you're a free agent. You go where you want to go, and you could best bet the Nets got a roster spot, and there's mutual interest, or even if there's no mutual interest, any player is going to want to play for this Nets team because they know the capability of this team. They know the expectations. They know that they're in the Eastern Conference. That is a big type of cloud that hovers over it as well, especially with the competition level. But like I would say keep an eye on Drummond. But the thing is, like I said before, February 24th is going to be a very important day because that's going to be the day, or even before, 2 days before that, 22nd, 23rd, whatever the case is. Since 24th is the last day, but it's gonna be interesting to see what direction that's heading. Like I said, it's who is it? TLC, Chioza, Iman Shumpert, Norvell Pell, and Vonleh. They're all on non-guaranteed deals, right? So the Nets could waive them for nothing. Depending on who they waive and who they keep, I'm like I said before, I've been tweeting a couple little times. I'm saying keep an eye on Elliot Kobo. Personally, I do think that he is going to be in the running for Chioza's two-way spot. I'm very high on that. I'm going to leave it at that. But I think that's what's going to happen as well. But overall, I just think you just got to just wait till the 24th, see what happens from there. And who they waive, whatever the case is. If they do waive Pell, and even if they waive Pell or Vonleh, it's already apparent that they know who they're going to get, and it's going to match up to that position, So it's going to come down 24th. I think that's what I want to see first. I'm a guy that likes to take things in order rather than just looking, okay, far term, what are they going to do? Who are they going to sign? It's going to be those small moves in the process that build up to that one move that they're going to make to fill those holes.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Drummond thing, it's so fascinating. I can't even comprehend that because I still think he has trade value, even with his big overpaid. I mean, it's 1 year left, but it's still a big contract. So moving that around is just difficult because there are some teams in our conference that could probably mix and match to get Drummond, and I could see it. Miami has some pretty heavy contracts of bigs that don't really play, or would be fine if he filled in. Although I think it could work because they have a lot of shooters. So theoretically, catch them rebounds. Yep. Celtics, he's always been a name, but also they're supposedly also interested in Kevin Love. But I do think the Celtics need a big like K-Love or Drummond just to kind of help out with their inside presence because there are some teams they don't match up well against.
And on top of that, with Drummond too, it's a 1 year deal, and if a team trades, for that, you want to make the team that he's going to wants to feel confident that he's going to re-sign there, So that's another thing that goes into it. Eventually, I think he is going to be bought out because I think that based on all the previous reports from weeks ago to as recent as a couple days ago, the interest between the Nets and Drummond are very mutual. So
that pushes me away from my JaVale McGee for 2 second rounders.
Yeah, I don't like. Yeah, like JaVale, I would like JaVale too. I think JaVale fits a very good, even just outside of just his position. Like I said, championship pedigree experience, knows how to play with Kevin Durant, knows how he rolls. Obviously, his play speaks for himself. He's a blocking machine. He could block, he could rebound, he could even stretch you some threes half the time. Adds that versatility to it. Although he's not going to obviously gravitate a lot of gravity, on the with offensively and stuff, but. I don't know. You got to wait it out.
Yeah. I mean, he'll certainly be.
It works at the end of the day. It's Sean Marks.
You never know. But Drummond would certainly solidify our five. That is for sure.
If Drummond comes, you could really start thinking change.
Then I'm very curious what our bench will look like. But pretty much, it sounds like you're still anticipating the finals. So, I mean, as of now, I still am too. I will fully reassess that mindset come trade deadline and buyout and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And who are your 4 roadblocks for the Nets coming out of the East? Obviously, on the West, you have Lakers, Clippers, and probably Jazz and Nuggets.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say Sixers right off the bat because I've been very impressed with what Doc Rivers has been able to do with that Sixers team. And Joel Embiid as well. I really liked what I've seen out of him the past year, especially his offseason. I monitored his whole offseason. He hired a brand new nutritionist. The list goes on. He really just focused on his game, and especially as a guy that had a lot of injuries in the past, you could tell he just looks healthy out there. He looks comfortable, and he's an MVP candidate, But so I would say the Sixers. Milwaukee's always going to be up there as a threat. I don't think Milwaukee's going to be too big of a threat, even though, everyone knows what Milwaukee's able to. But I'm still on the belief that, if you have Chris Middleton as your main shot maker, it's going to be really hard to kind of just win, especially in 7-game series against, like I said, teams of the Nets or even lower half teams in the Eastern Conference that are hungry teams, So, but, I would say those are the two teams that really stick out to me right now. The Heat, I think they're going to start putting it together a little bit. Obviously, Bam gave the Nets a whole bunch of trouble throughout the 2 games that they played or 3 games they played this year. So it's going to be interesting who they match up on there. But like I said, Drummond does come. That fills a big void on both ends of the floor and a big hole. So it's going to be with the personnel and see what players do come and everything. Western Conference, realistically speaking, if I just wanted to just fast forward to the big picture, I think it's going to be Nets-Lakers in the finals. I've always been a fan. You could catch me on record months ago, even before the season started. Right after the Lakers signed Schroeder, I was like, okay, yeah, that's the pickup. And obviously, Horton Tucker was really good for them coming out of the G League, really solidifying himself as a great key player. Kyle Kuzma playing all right. And there's the list goes on. There's just so deep and so their chemistry so built because not a lot of the whole roster changed over the past couple of years.
Yeah, so that it's made up for the lack of actual team practices, which the Nets do not have.
Yeah, that's another thing to add in there. They know how to play with each other, at least a good majority of the players. So that's another big thing. I've had Lakers in 6, and I'm going to stick with Lakers in 6 until Drummond comes, if he does come. That's as simple that's as simple as it gets for me. If Drummond comes, we could raise the conversations. Okay, I think the Nets have not an edge, but I think they're gonna. I'm not saying in general that the Lakers are just gonna blow Brooklyn out if they reach the finals. All this stuff, I think it's gonna be a very competitive series, regardless with Drummond or without Drummond. But oh man, I think that if Drummond does come, it's going to be a very tight. It's going to be a very anticipating yet exciting NBA Finals to watch and cover. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, to add on to the East, because we pretty much covered the West, I would add on Pacers. I think are an interesting matchup, but we haven't played them yet, and they haven't been healthy. Mm-hmm. But I do think they have a front court that puts us in a little bit of a pickle. They have a decent 5. The Celtics, I still think we match up well in advantage-wise, but I think, like I said before, they really need a true big to put us in a rut and maybe an additional shooter. So that's why K-Love, if healthy, could be a perfect fit. Mm-hmm. But that's pretty much it that I can think of on the Nets.
Because there's going to be so much movement from the time we're recording this to after the deadline.
Always is. There's always a day or two after we record something happens.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to shake. There's going to be so much shakeups that once the trade deadline's over, we know who's staying with who. Everything set in stone. COVID aside, protocols aside, we're going to be able to see who's on what teams and really make a big judgment and everything. So that's what I got to say on that. But I guess heading back to the next thing. So let's talk about the rest of the league for a little bit, right? So, what's your overall thoughts on All-Star Weekend? Because mine are not positive. I'll just start off with
pushes to the summer. Just straight up pushes to the summer. Somehow find a way to make it happen around before the next season. I'm still in the boat that the Olympics is getting postponed or canceled. So as a alternative, here you go. Mm-hmm. Something inclusive, quick little bubble. Make it. I mean, you'll have to make it a little bit longer bubble because of protocols, but I think you can make it in a way. Host it at Disney again. Sorry, Atlanta, but host it at Disney. Do the Disney bubble, family. I think you can make it work safely. And I know Florida's a hot spot, but the NBA proves that a bubble can truly work.
Mm-hmm. The only counter I would have to that is that considering that this past offseason was very short, and on top of that, if you did want to make it in the summer, even after the finals, kind of similar to what the Pro Bowl does, that would probably be if everyone was talking about having an All-Star game in the summer. the thing is, overall, I think what they should do is they should really think ahead here. Obviously, it's set in stone. All-Star Game's going to happen. All it's going to happen. I'm not a fan of it because you just got to think of the big picture, right? It's in Atlanta. I think the last time I checked, there was 11% positivity rate. I'm not trying to sound like a dad here at all. Just put that out there. But like the thing is that players are going to break protocol. It's All-Star Weekend. This is one of the times that multiple stars could on different teams could like meet up, hang out. Have that different feel to it. Protocols are going to be broken. It's a lot of players are going to be traveling from a lot of different areas to that one spot.
And just for a very short period of time. It's just logistically a nightmare.
That's what I'm saying. And on top of that, I would not be surprised, unfortunately, whatsoever, if the league had to postpone for 2 weeks after the All-Star game, and that pushes everything back a little bit. In my terms, what they should have done is just name the All-Stars and just hold the game on postponement and see if it could work for a summertime. I personally don't think the Olympics is going to happen either. I just don't think that's even. I could even be as confident. I could put some money on it, honestly, if you want to use that saying about the Olympics having. I just don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, no, the All-Star. I'm not a fan of the All-Star game. I think it's too big of a risk. The spot it's in, the players that are going to be coming from different areas. I'm not saying specific players, obviously, but I'm saying with the travel, everyone coming from different areas to that one spot. I would love the NBA when they do it. If it's a success, that'll be fantastic. But I just think it's a lot of risk, and it could really backfire on the league.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. And what about like, has there been any like teams that surprised you? I mean, we kind of talked about the top heavy, but like for me personally, I would say the Jazz.
Jazz, yeah.
I always liked the Mike Conley signing, but he didn't get his groove, and now this is them with his groove for the most part. So they are exceeding my expectations by quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. I would say, you had Jazz in there. I think Sixers, most definitely. I think they're so chemistry connected. I think I wasn't expecting them. What are they, 17-7? I think right now, top seed in the East, something like that. So that's I think that's really caught me by surprise. I like what Phoenix is doing. I did like them signing Chris Paul. I think it's a great culture move on top of his play. It's someone that's very well respected around the league. He's not one of those players that are going to come in and say, this is my team, I'm scoring this amount of numbers. The superstar approach when it comes to bring a superstar on a losing team. And you got Devin Booker there, and I think he's done a great job to even – obviously, Chris Paul is not going to say, okay, I'm going to make you better. But playing along Chris Paul, you can tell Devin Booker's game is a lot more fluid, a lot more versatile. And just overall, he's just more comfortable out there. And I think that's what Devin did.
It's truly helped Aiden as well.
Especially DeAndre Aiden. I think the Suns, that's why I said the Suns too, because like everyone's just kind of flowing. I think Monty Williams is a great coach. I think he's the perfect coach for this Suns team, I think. Especially because of his background. He's well connected. You could even go back with Team USA teams. The guy's got experience. He knows how to deal with this. And I'd say the Suns are definitely a team to watch out for. Now, am I going to say the Suns are going to be one of those bracket busters in the playoffs? Probably not. But I'd say just based on what they're doing and kind of how they're conducting with their culture, their program, and kind of getting that rebuild to that step of, okay, are they a couple pieces away? Yes, but like, they're in that step. They're in that kind of like, they're halfway up the staircase, but they got a couple bigger steps to go over. It's hard to land a big superstar in Phoenix, especially when there isn't a lot of winning to complement over the years. So it's going to be tough. But I would say overall, it's just Sixers, Jazz, and Suns have really stuck out to me. I would say those.
I think that's fair enough to agree on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, what do you think? How would I word this? Which teams look kind of primed to you for like a deep playoff run? Like one of those.
They're game ready. Well, I would say kind of like some of the teams we talked about already. I think the Jazz, Lakers, Clippers. Unfortunately, I'm not ready to say the Nets yet because, as we discussed about before, I still don't believe in the 76ers. I mean, they're healthy, which is for the most part healthy, but I'm still not a believer. I'm not a huge believer in the teams of the East yet. I think it's too early to talk about the East, but when we're talking about the West, it's those three teams. The Nuggets, I think they're a piece away. It's like, but you never know. I've never been a big Nuggets believer, but Jokic, he's killing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I'm on the same page with that. And then on top of that, if you had to name three MVP finalists right now or MVP favorites, who would you name? Three MVP.
So LeBron,
Okay.
KD, and Jokic.
Okay. Nice. I'm thinking. Well, LeBron. The thing with LeBron, it depends how his playing time goes into it and everything down the line. I would love to see LeBron get another MVP. I think mine are LeBron, Embiid, Jokic, and KD. I think KD's got a high voice, but at the same time, I think KD's play isn't going to be as bought into when it comes to voting because of who's around him.
I
With
also think the amount of times he's missed games
and the
because
amount of
of
times he
protocol
must.
and back-to-backs, which is really going to hurt him. I think his story, because I'm a big narrative and numbers person. I'm not just one or the other.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I have KD in there. LeBron obviously is his age, and he's still putting up pretty much the same numbers that he always has been putting up.
Yep.
Jokic is just putting up, crazy numbers, and I can see Embiid. I'm not there yet, but I can have him in my top four.
Yeah. The only reason I say Embiid is because I think that he's just making a big impact on this Sixers team and where they're standing right now, and I think that his style of play, obviously, it's if you want to take the broad terms of comparing it, yeah, kind of like Jokic a little bit, same position, same kind of skill set, but obviously Embiid's a lot more physically stronger.
They are
And,
the two best centers in the league,
oh yeah,
like true centers. No offense to AD who gets to
80s
play the role.
part, yeah, for sure. But that's how I would word it. And then now this is I guess is a interesting one because I know me and you are on the same page when it comes to pandemic basketball and everything. But thoughts on the health and safety protocols? Because I know
I don't get it.
I would say even contact tracing. Put it that way, because that's where it gets blurry.
I do not get it. Like my logic is you're interacting with that person for X amount of minutes, and with someone who's positive, and then you personally interact with someone else,
Mm-hmm.
and you may not be positive, but you may, you know, it takes time. It's not like automatically if you're gonna, you know, be test positive. So
Exactly. Yeah,
this has happened a few times. There was Jonas Valanciunas played 14 minutes against the Nets, took him out because of some weird testing. KD, the second, I don't know about the first time, but the second time he was in the game for like 19 minutes,
yep.
and then you take him out. Like first, you're not even gonna put him in. You screw up so many records, which is crazy, and then you put him in, and then you take him out. Like either at that point you don't put him at all or you keep him in because I don't know, like he's already with the people long enough to, like, what is it, 15 minutes give or take, no
Mm-hmm.
mask, all that. Like if they mess up the testing or if it's like a late reaction, I was sorry, late results kind of thing or whatever, I mean there was the guy in MLB, the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
He found out he was positive towards the end and they didn't even stop him from celebrating. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, and we didn't really hear anything outside of that on. Well, we knew a couple players did catch it afterwards and stuff like that. And World Series, everyone, there's two sides of that. The people that don't care too much are going to say, "Hey, you just won the World Series." That's a highlight of it. That's a kid's dream sometimes growing up playing the sport. But at the same time, you got to be safe. I think when it comes to my views on the health and safety protocol, especially with contact tracing, right? I get it. The league is doing their best. They absolutely can, taking the most smallest of just processes in general and steps to make sure the league is safe. Um, and obviously, I wasn't really a fan of them doing the in-market play from the beginning of the year, but I understand because of the business side of things, it adds a little more revenue, especially having I think 12 or 13 teams allow fans in the arena as well.
Yeah,
So
it's not about that.
it's not even about that because like on top of that, they only bring in so much revenue. They don't bring in crazy amounts, but I understand they wanted to do it that way. And at that time, the health experts probably thought, or even on top of Adam Silver in the league, everyone wants this thing to go away. And they thought, you know what, we're cracking down on it. At that time, when they announced the market play, the vaccine talk was going in, talking about the high 90 percentages. It's working, it's coming through. That all comes into it. But overall, with the contact tracing, it is confusing. I do appreciate. I'm not the hater type of guy when it comes to safety at all. I myself tested positive for the virus a couple months ago. I know what it's like. I know what it's like when you pass it along to people. I hope. Well, I could put that out. Number one, I didn't pass it to anyone, but I know what it's like when you get that notice that, hey, you're positive. You get that call, and then you start calling all the people that you were with the day before, the 2 days before, and I've always been a safe guy on top of that, so I wasn't really next to anyone. I had two other people, and they tested negative and stuff, but that's a different story. But yeah, no, like at the same time, they're being safe. That's the biggest thing about the whole thing. They're trying to be the safe to the best of their abilities. I think they got to refine the protocols, whether they add what I find interesting as well. Why to people that have the antibodies, why does contact tracing have to be that weighed more heavy? That's another thing to add in. That's another type of element. Obviously, just because you have the antibodies, that doesn't mean, oh, you couldn't have it but not be you could be a transmitter. There's all that type of stuff that goes into it. But the big cloud that hovers over this is, even though we know it's been a year or almost a year since COVID's gone, kind of taken over, there's still a severity of unknown when it comes to this thing. It's going to come down to, okay, when the vaccines come out, that's when, or when the players are able to get it, I should say, and the world starts to grab a sense of normalcy and everything starts to come back into play. That's what we're all looking forward to. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But I guess we could close this thing off with some thoughts on the Super Bowl. Well, let's talk about some of those. So overall, let's talk about the game first. We'll talk about the halftime performance in a little bit, but the game overall. I don't know how big of a football guy you are, but did you enjoy the game from the experience? And then give me the experience side, and then give me the competitive side.
So the game itself, I felt like I was just watching one team while the
Okay.
other person was like, AFK, or like just put down the controller for a little bit, up, kick a field goal. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I don't follow football like I do the NBA. I'm a Jets fan, but even that, like, I follow them very loosely. I mean, I'm glad they finally get rid of Gay, so I'll start watching them more competitively or,
Yeah.
spiritedly.
Mhm.
But I expected a little more scoring. I mean, I wanted the Chiefs also because, his Mets ties. I kind of like that. He's like such a genuine person, and also Tom Brady wins, so it kind of gets the storyline. But I mean, it's great. I
Mhm.
mean, before this victory, I think goated was, it's
It
there
was
already.
it was Brady for sure.
But yeah, the game itself was just not doing it for me at all. The pace, it
Mhm.
just really felt like I was just watching one team, play with traffic cones, the ones you practice, like some people
Yeah.
practice with driving, learning how to drive a car. That's what it
Yeah.
kind of felt like. Like if those cones were slightly moving,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
feel it. I was also happy for Todd Bowles, former Jets head coach. So that
Jets
was
coach.
that was really great.
Yeah, he killed in the Super Bowl. That defense really did a fantastic. There's not even a word to describe what they did to Kansas City, holding them at that many points. Like, geez, like just look at the dominance from Tampa Bay's defense. That's the story of the whole game right there. Just the pressure they constantly put on Mahomes. Even just how the safeties conducted the deep passes, and especially when Mahomes scrambled. Like everyone knows Mahomes can scramble, and he could throw some great balls off balance or even in the middle of air. But when you're in the Super Bowl and you're going against Brady and you're working behind, that's the big thing the Chiefs have done. In the Super Bowl was, even at halftime, this team was playing from behind for the final two quarters in a Super Bowl environment where the pressure's already on. Mahomes, who's already a young quarterback, obviously his experience speaks for himself. He was in that GOAT conversation this early, like it's incredible. But you can't beat experience. That's the biggest takeaway from this thing. Tom Brady he won 6 of them, and he was in 10 of them. Like, you can't beat that experience when it comes to playing this team. I always said, literally from the time both teams went to the Super Bowl, I said Brady's winning this. Like, I don't even have to think twice about it. So that's my thing on it. But did anything surprise you at all? I guess during the game, I think if you want me to start first on this, the thing that surprised me, um, I get it. I I heard I saw the comments on my Twitter post. Most of the audience was healthcare workers. I
Oh,
saw
the 25.
the 20,000
So
fans.
many.
There's the guys, like, I get it. It's health. Even if a majority of them are healthcare workers, just do me a favor. Go after the Super Bowl. Just pull up, like, I think it's Tampa Bay 10 News. I was seeing Twitter clips, and just tell me, okay, was it a good idea to let 20,000 fans in that building? I'll leave it at that. But because
Dude was rocking one of the dudes was rocking a COVID-19 jersey, Chiefs jersey, like headed on in.
like it,
Like, come
I
on,
get it.
man.
Super Bowl, I get it. It's the Super Bowl. I watch every Super Bowl religiously, even highlights throughout the year and stuff. But like the thing is, there's a pandemic going on. I understand you want to it's the Super Bowl. It's the biggest event, and you want to have that audience. You want to have that real game feel, especially through TV with the players, especially as well. It's hard, I understand that, but at 20,000, that's the biggest thing that surprised me is when I read that it was going to be 20,000 before, but once I saw the 20,000 on my TV, I was just like, wow.
Everyone's like, oh, there's 30,000 cutouts. I'm like, I don't care. Most of those people are real and they can actually transmit. But for
Yeah,
me, the other thing that like got to me was like, we had a we were we had a chance for Iron Eagle to call that game. Like he was the next man up
yeah.
if something happened. Like that's crazy awesome. Like I was also kind of hoping that there would be more Nickelodeon effects. Like I was really hoping that Nick would like take away viewership and like do their own.
To like
Like
add a little flavor to it or something. Yeah.
it
That,
would
that,
have helped for a game like this.
Now let's go to the main conversation point because everyone knows. Listen, Brady seventh ring. Congratulations, undisputed NFL GOAT by far, champion of champions. Leave it at that. I think that's the debate's over at this point. I'm a Giants fan. I can even say that proudly. All right. So even though we
Probably
could,
over like two or three Super Bowls ago, to be honest.
well, I'll say our Giants did beat him a couple times in the Super Bowl. Rob him of 2 rings. But I'll leave it at that. But like on top of that, with the halftime show, right? What were your overall thoughts on the halftime show, from the performer in the weekend to the way the choreography to just everything in general? Did you like it overall? Did you not like it?
I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I mean, he did follow Shakira and J Lo, as everyone will point out. But
Yeah. hmm
and I also like I knew some of his songs, but I didn't know The Weeknd. I also didn't realize The Weeknd was spelled without that E at the end. I didn't
Yeah.
know it was one person. I knew a few songs. Um, I I'm impressed that he put 7 mil of his own money in there. Like props, respect.
hmm
It wasn't for me. I guess it's because I don't know enough of his songs, and I also was like starting to get a headache when he was like doing that like mirror room of mirrors lights thing, and everyone on Twitter just kept posting, and I was just trying to swipe away from it or like
But
scroll
yeah,
away from it.
that became
It
the
just
main.
like hurt. Like I'm staring at a screen for like my job almost all the time, and like everything I do about the job's like pretty much screen based.
Uh-huh.
And obviously my phone, TV, like I really can't escape a screen. So
Yeah.
like I'm dying. But
hmm
like great songs. I'm sure he picked like his best. But then like the amount of backup dancers, like my other thing is like it's great people are working, but at the same time, pandemic is still in my mindset, regardless if they're tested or whatever. Just like it's crazy to think that. But I do think the set was pretty cool. I just I don't know.
Like,
I It's tough
like
for me.
I guess if my thoughts on it was like when I saw the weekend was announced as a performer, I was interested because number one, it's an interesting choice for that. He does have a global appeal. His music genre does fit kind of that national audience level. It's not someone that comes in and a lot of people don't like it. It fits multiple demographics, I guess you could say. His music. The thing with the weekend too is I think that the choreography and the storyline behind his performance was very confusing to a lot of people. I caught that with a lot of movement. The storyline, I think a lot of people kind of knew okay, now that's the storyline. When they read about it the next morning, they saw everything and everything. But like I'd say, now this is a fun question. I guess we could end. I think we could. Well, we're not going to end with this. We're going to use
We
one of
could end
Brooks.
halftime with it.
Yeah, we can end halftime with it. But who would you pick as? Give me three people that you would have as halftime performers if you got to pick.
Well, I'm not stealing yours. We talked about this off air, but I'm sticking with Jay-Z. His strong classic,
Uh huh.
always fresh in my opinion. I
Uh huh.
like Wiz.
Written down. Hold on, let me get mine.
I
But
like Wiz. He always performs well, and you can mix him up with a few people like he did Boys of Summer with Fall Out Boy. So I think they could nicely. I mean, clearly they worked in the tour, so bring him to the Super Bowl. Why not? I I struggled on this because there's like so many people I want to hear and listen from. Like Kendrick would be cool, but it's been a while since he's come out.
yeah.
Eminem, there's a lot of haters, and I get it. Like he doesn't. Yeah, it depends which Eminem you get, but I do think he's a great performer for this kind of like overall audience. And it's tough because I would love them, but you'd have to pair them with someone either like Foo Fighters or Green Day. Like
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like when you have pop or hip hop rap mixed with like more traditional rock. Like I love mixing those up,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you get like a rock version. Like Complete Tangent. There's years ago I was at some like concert at Gramercy Theater and someone did a cover of Kanye's Heartless, but in rock. Like just rocked it out. It was just so good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because my three would be, well, Drake, Rihanna, Ariana Grande. I think those three people overall, I think that they fit that national audience and a genre that everyone would appreciate. Because Drake, his instrumentals fit one demographic, his lyrics fit another, and plus it's Drake at the same time. His global appeal. Drake's one of those artists that everyone really appreciates, no matter what type of music you like. Same thing follows with Ariana Grande. She's what obviously she's a very different genre than I guess you could say a lot of rappers and stuff like that on top of that. And then with Rihanna, that's just a household name. She's one of the best female singers of our generation. Has history, with everything. So I'd say those three. But I guess to end this whole recording off, let's put it this way. When you were at the Super Bowl or watching the Super Bowl, what was your go-to beverage and your go-to drink?
So I'm more big on nachos than wings because nachos like you can still have that chicken in there and you get like guac and all those beans and like loaded nachos just has like so many different flavors and aspects to it. It's like kind of my favorite. And then drinks like it depends on the mood and the feel. Like I'm either a whiskey guy or like a cider guy, or everyone loves a claw now and then.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. No, because like what we did was when I went over to one of my friend's house and watched the Super Bowl. We got pizza. That you always got to have the pizza in there. And my friend, well, at least me, I'm a big wine guy. I guess a lot of people are
True, yeah.
now. Yes.
If I want to have a classy Super Bowl, I will gladly go wine.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm a big wine guy. So big red wine guy. Throw that in there. Not no white. White is white. I'll
I
drink
have it in my fridge, but that's
there.
only because someone gifted me it. I haven't even opened it.
Like wine, I'll drink if it's there, but like red wine is like once you get that accustomed taste of the red wine, people know. If you know, you know. That's what I'll say. But like with the wine, you gotta have the meats, you gotta have the cheeses, you gotta have a little. What we did was we had a little buffalo cheddar jack in there. We had all types of just cheeses in there as well. So pizza cheeses. We had a couple finger foods as well. Pizza rolls, pigs in a blanket.
I honestly just had water the other night, but now I'm like fantasizing on all the Super Bowl parties I've been to or
Oh
that I
yeah,
want to go to. But
yeah.
I was just straight up just water last night.
Yeah, because the one we did, it was just me and literally two of my friends, and that was it. We
Leave
didn't want
myself
anything
high.
big. It was hard telling a lot of people, hey guys, like let's not get a big group together, like how it was last year. But you gotta do what you gotta do to stay safe. But yeah, that's. I think that's pretty good. I think we did a good job.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then I guess the last thing is, did any Super Bowl commercials stand out for you?
Uh, to be honest with you, I didn't see because like I've been watching the Super Bowl so many years. My dad's always been a big commercial guy. He's always one of those guys that
That was my thing before I started getting into sports, to be honest. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's like there's just growing up, just sitting there Super Bowl, not knowing really the game of football. Growing up, just the commercials is what got me into football, ironically. And some things that stick out, the Drake from State Farm commercial is pretty cool. It's not. I'm not even gonna lie. One of my friends could vouch for me on this. I literally picked Drake to be that guy once I saw the commercial because the guy's like, "Oh, we got a next talent coming." I'm like, I can guarantee you right now, it's either going to be it's going to either be Brady, an NFL or an athlete, or it's going to be Drake, and it was Drake. So I saw it coming. He fits that State Farm theme, that narrative.
also rhymes.
And also rhymes exactly. Um, Another one that was, I don't even know how to sum it up. It was weird. I guess you could say weird with a capital W is the McConaughey commercial with the Doritos. The Doritos Puffs. Number one, I don't think that chip's a good idea. I'm not a big puff guy, chip eater. But that's one that sticks out, and I don't know, like there was a lot of weird ones. I would say
I mean, there's some good
weird,
weird. I mean,
there were good.
transitioning weird, we can talk Edward Scissorhands. that
Yeah.
the son, it's really cool that Winona Ryder like reprised her role and son, Timothée Chalamet. Like my only thing is like he wasn't born like that, so
Yeah.
you experimented on your son, give him Scissorhands. So that was a little weird.
Yeah. It was a
Just
little.
thinking, even though that's not the point of a car commercial. Wayne's World with Cardi B was awesome. I just
Yeah,
love
that's
it.
a good one. I
It was
forgot.
so well done.
Mhm.
Just a clean sketch. And Shaggy wasn't me.
Yep.
Cheetos.
Cheetos. Yep. That was a good one.
I was kind of hoping that Ashton Kutcher would put a little more Kelso energy in it,
Uh
but
huh.
Mila Kunis was just perfect at what she did.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
For the most part, some of them were like hit or miss, but that's
Yeah, it's the Super Bowl. It's like I don't know. It's one of those things, and with pandemic, you see the that industry of filming and everything, on sets it hurt. It hit a couple times,
yeah.
So you
Props
can
to
add
them.
that into that. But I think overall, if I had to give the whole commercials on a 1 to 10 scale, I would rate it a 7.5.
I think that's
I'd do,
fair.
I'd do a 7.5. That's what I would do.
I think it's fair. I missed the one where it's like the endless dogs running, all the wiener dogs just running across hot
Oh,
dogs or whatever,
yeah.
or
Or
the
Eli
Kia
Manning,
hamsters.
the Odell Eli Manning commercial will always be a GOAT one in my book. The one
Yeah,
Odell's running, Eli catches him, lifts him up. Oh, that's prime. Any Giants fan, that's good memories. I'll leave it at that.
yeah.
Good
But
memories.
anyways, Chris, pleasure to catch up with you, man. Great to
I know,
speak.
bro.
Great to speak
Yeah,
to you.
dude.
Great to see you. I know it's been a
Virtual.
minute
Yeah,
for
virtually.
sure.
I know. I'll stop by Brooklyn pretty soon. We got to catch up a little bit, but
That is for sure, for sure.
that-
Socially distanced wings or something. I don't know. But
yeah,
anyways, just want to thank our listeners for tuning in. We're going to try and do our best to keep pushing out content as I adjust my job and Chris adjusts his new responsibilities. Like we may not do every other, but we're still going to provide the best content when we can. And
yes,
that's all
sir.
I really got to say. What about you, Chris?
Same here, man. Like obviously you got a new job going, and like I said before, we've had these talks. You guys for the just the consistent listeners that listen to us on a day by day basis, email us, DM either of us individually or even on the Wingspan account. That we really appreciate those type of messages, positive especially. And on top of that, like Doug said, I'm just gonna mirror kind of just ditto what he just said. With my new responsibilities, with Doug's as well with his new job, we're gonna do our best to continue to provide you guys with great content, great guests especially, and just keep doing what we're doing. So don't say bye to us yet. We're still gonna be here, even if it's
Still going
not.
to be winging it.
Yeah, it's even if it's not the custom one episode every 2 weeks, something like that. If we have to produce at a time where we can produce when we have an episode, we're most certainly going to do that as well.
Yeah. So as the next time, stay classy, take care, wear a mask, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.